Hey everybody, it's Chef Maria from Beyond Decadence. Sorry, had a little technical difficulty there before I got started. Just wanted to make sure I had the camera set so everybody could see it. I wanted to do this first one as a Facebook Live, and then I'll run it again at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as a watch party, so that way you can ask questions. If you post questions even during the transmission of this video, I'll see them after I get done, and I'll answer them just as soon as this broadcast concludes. The phone is in the tripod right now, so I don't want to try and type back answers while I'm going through the demo with you. But I hope you guys are doing okay, and that as we're all staying home together, you're finding things to do with your family and children that are making the time go quickly. I wanted to do my part like a lot of the chefs across the country are doing, jumping on and showing different techniques and desserts just to give you something fun to take part in. Now, I'm going to show you a dessert that's really super simple to do, so you could even do it at home. You could do it with the kids. It's really easy, and I'll talk about different ways that you can change it up and change out ingredients that maybe you don't like. So it's really going to be kind of fun. If you have suggestions of desserts that you would like to see me demo, please add those in the comments, and I'll look over them and see if it's something I can easily do and that I have all the supplies to do and that won't be like a 2-hour long video. So with that said, I'll go ahead and get started. What we're making is a no-bake strawberry kiwi cheesecake parfait. So it's really delicious, and I'll tell you as we go along different changes that you can make if there's any part of it that you don't like, or just different suggestions. So as we get started, I made this last night as, it's just a new recipe that I found that I wanted to test out, and so I made it first, to see how I liked it and different changes. Hey, somebody joined, thank you for joining, to see how I liked it and different changes that I would make. And what I did, and I'll post the recipe afterwards as well, is like cutting it in half. Now, what I found out is it uses, now using a half batch, I'm just going to use 4 ounces of cream cheese, and this cream cheese has been softened, and you can tell because as I smash it with my spatula, it's just flattening out beautifully. Why it's so important to soften your cream cheese first, because when you start adding ingredients to it, it's not going to help break it down enough to make it soft. You'll end up with lumps and clumps, and then when your cheesecake is done, you're biting into clumps of cream cheese. Now this is no bake, so we're not going to get any help from the oven, so this is nice and softened. You can put it in the microwave on 50% to soften it. That will work. Just take it out of the well, it's not a metal wrapper, but the foil wrapper. I don't think you want to put that in your microwave. That could be bad. So just soften it first, or you can leave it sitting on the counter for a little while and it's not going to hurt anything. So this is 4 ounces of cream cheese, and it's been softened, okay? And if you wanted to add additional flavors to this, you could. Let me take you through the recipe to start with, and then I'll talk about ways that you can jazz it up. In this little cup, in this little glass dish, this is 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, if you say, okay, you know what, I don't like sugar, you could do organic sugar. You could, there's even recipes that use powdered sugar. So you could do a little bit of research on different sugar substitutes if you don't want to use granulated sugar. And I'm going to pour just a little bit of this in to start with before I put my mixer in. And I just eyeballed it. I just poured in probably about half. And the reason that you do that, the other thing you can use, is you can use super fine sugar. And so that actually breaks down a lot quicker because the crystals are so much finer. And if you've seen me do videos before, you've heard me talk about my little hand mixer. It's not that I get any kickback from Hamilton Beach, but it's a Hamilton Beach. And I've got both beaters in with the rubber coating on it, so that way it won't be quite as loud as metal. But this little mixer is the most powerful thing ever, and I like to use it for small quantities, and it has a tendency to throw the contents of the bowl like all over my kitchen. So that's always a lot of fun. So I just have a little bit of the sugar in now, and I'm going to start this on low. Bear with me a second, it's only going to take a second. And I just gave it a little mix just to start with, okay, just to get that little bit of sugar mixed in. And since it's only 2 tablespoons of sugar, I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest in, so the rest of the sugar is in. And then I'm going to turn it on briefly for a minute again. Okay. And I can stop and scrape to make sure I don't hear like sugar. Sometimes if there's a lot of sugar in something, when you stir, it's like you can almost hear it as it's hitting the bowl. But see how creamy and smooth that is? Okay. Now the only other thing that goes in here, now let me interject one thing right here. This recipe doesn't have any vanilla in it. It doesn't have any flavoring in it. So if you wanted to put vanilla extract, I use a Nielsen Massey, which is an amazing brand, and it's expensive, but it's awesome. You could put a little vanilla in there, and you might say, well, how much? Start small. So start with maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon or 1/4 of a teaspoon. Mix it up really well, and then get a clean spoon, dip it in there, and try it and see how you like it. Now, you could use vanilla or you could use other flavorings. You might say, well, I like to have lemon in my cheesecake. You could definitely put some lemon zest in there. So you can be creative and think outside of the box. It's not going to hurt anything to experiment a little bit. Just start small. So I've got that mixed up. I'm not putting any vanilla in. And then the only other thing that goes in the recipe itself is heavy cream. And like I said, I'm doing a half a batch, so I've only got 1 cup in here. Now what I noticed about this cheesecake is because you've got, let's review just for a second. We've got 4 ounces of cream cheese. We've got 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then we're gonna add 1 cup of heavy cream. It's not a super sweet cheesecake, and since there is so much heavy cream in it compared to the cream cheese, it's very light, it's fluffy, but it's not a strong cream cheese taste at all. So if you like a cheesecake that just where the cream cheese flavor just, hits you between the eyes, then you might not like this one as much. But let me go ahead and finish it off, and I'll keep talking as I go. Now what I'm going to do, and my little spatula has little knobs on it, so when you put it on the counter, it's not supposed to get your counter all guppy. There's a professional word. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this bowl will spin as I start to mix it. So I've got the heavy cream over here on this side. I love these OXO cups. Not that that's an endorsement; they don't give me any kickback. But I like them because when you pour your stuff into it, you can look at it straight down into the cup and see the measurements, and you can also see it from the side. But it's got a handy little spout there. I'm going to turn the crazy mixer on low, and I'm going to pour in a steady stream slowly so I don't have heavy cream all over my kitchen, and I'll stop a couple times throughout. Oops. Have to get it on the right speed. Wait, let me do it this way. I have to mention one thing about this mixer. There's like a boost button right here, which puts it on like turbo. And when you're holding onto it, it's really easy for your hand to hit that button, and then it turns it into like overdrive. Of it in. Let me stop and show you. I'm going to stop and show you things a lot along the way because as you're doing this at home, I don't want you to think you're doing something wrong. It's still really, really liquidy right now, and the cream cheese is not all mixed in yet. But I'm going to pick up my spatula. My counter's still clean because those little knobs on the side, oops, sorry, I pulled it up too high, keep it from laying on the counter so it keeps your counter clean. So I'm going to give it a little scrape down. You always want to make sure you stop and scrape down because you want to get all that unmixed batter down there so the beaters can do their job. So I've got it scraped down. I'm just going to scrape this residual on the beaters because as it goes down in there, it will get mixed up. And what I'm doing, this bowl likes to spin. I could have put a wet paper towel underneath it, or even if you have a little silicone mat in school, well, I think they still call them silpats. We always call them silpats in pastry school. But you could put a little silicone mat underneath here, a wet paper towel, or even a little towel, because this bowl on the granite just spins. I'm actually holding the beaters down into it, and I'm resting the cup on the edge of the bowl to keep it from spinning. Now let me stop and show you, because I want to teach you guys a lot along the way and not just, zip through and get the recipe done. Now it's not mixed in all the way yet, and the heavy cream on the beaters, you can see it's still dripping off. It's still pretty liquidy right now, so I need to scrape this into there. And what's happening with all that heavy cream is it's mixed with the cream cheese, but it is heavy cream, which it also turns into whipped cream. So as you continue to whip it, it's adding lightness and airiness to the recipe, and it is going to tighten up a little bit more. So let me go ahead and finish it off. Let me move the mixer so you guys can see. All right. So you can see as it's on the beaters, it did tighten up because you saw how it started. It was really soupy and really loose because the cream was still very much in a liquid form at that point. Let me scrape these just a little bit, and then I'll show you the bowl. Remember, if you have questions, please post them, and I'll read them after, and I'll respond right away. Okay, so here's what it looks like. It's still a little bit loose, but not horribly so. I could mix it a little bit more if I wanted to, but this is going to go in the refrigerator to tighten up unless you just want to eat it right away. Now, a couple options that you have here. Let me get the beaters out of the way. Let's drop those down. And I have a little cord keeper for my mixer to put the cord through, just because otherwise it always drags through everything on the counter. Okay, so what I could have done here, I mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. This is where I would take a spoon and I would stop and I would taste it and say, okay, you know what? It needs a little bit more flavoring. Maybe I want to put some vanilla in. Maybe I want to put some lime zest in, or, another flavor. I mean, you could even put some strawberry or raspberry flavoring in. There are a million cheesecake flavors, so just let your imagination, carry you to something amazing. So that's done. And then these are the little parfait cups that I have, and they're fairly big. Now, when I did this last night, I did it a professional would do. And I got my pastry bag, and I put the tip in. So there's the bag, there's a nice fat tip, and I dropped it in, and then I twisted it down. Now, I used a bigger bag last night. And then I put my batter in, and then I cut the tip off, and then, I was able to start piping it into the cups. But you may say, you know what, I don't have a pastry bag, and I don't want to do that. It's just not my preference. So I'm going to show you an easy way around that. Now, into each cup, you're putting 2 tablespoons of crumbs. Now, I use vanilla wafers, And all I did was put the vanilla wafers in the food processor. I probably ate a few, and then just let it rip. So then you just give it a little shake to even it out. Now, if you wanted to jazz up your vanilla wafers, you could add a little bit of sugar and a little bit of butter, and it would be a firmer crust. But this is going to be right underneath the cheesecake batter, so that's not a requirement. And if you say, you know what, I don't like vanilla wafers, then by all means you could change it to, what's the other thing I'm trying to think of? Graham cracker crumbs, or you could change it to Oreo cookies. I don't know how that would taste with kiwi, but you could do that if you thought that flavor went together. So there's my 2 tablespoons of vanilla wafers in each cup. And you do want to shake it to even it out as much as you can. That's not too bad at all. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm holding it up too high. Because when you put the batter on it, you'll be able to shake the batter just a little bit, but the crumbs, once they're crooked, there's not too much you can do about it. But hopefully people aren't looking at the crumbs so much, they're diving into the delicious dessert you've made them. I forgot to get one tool out, so let me show you. Let me grab it and I'll show you. I have these little scoopers in a million different sizes, in a million's exact. They have a number inside of the scoop, so that way I can tell what size it is. Now obviously I don't need all of these for this particular project, but the reason I wanted to show you the scooper technique, because I did it last night and I used the piping bag, and it's still hard to tell exactly how much, well, you can see how much you have in each one, but trying to get them each dead even requires you to shake the, to bang it on the ground a little bit, not the ground, I'm sorry, to bang it on the counter a little bit after you have the cheesecake batter on top of it, and it can make your, it can make the crumbs go a little bit crooked. So the scoop is just an easy way to make sure that each one, you guys see this? Make sure I'm okay. That each one gets the same amount. Now that's just one scoop, but I'm going to be conservative. Make sure you can see it. Oh, I think I need to go this direction. That's one scoop. And of course I want more than that in there, so I'm going to go ahead and dump another one on top. And see, from there I can give it a little bit of a tap, tap, tap on the counter. Now you can actually pick it up and drop it, not from a real high height. We don't want to be crazy about it. But you can, drop it and it will flatten it out. And see, I actually whipped it so it was a little bit thicker, so it's not, moving as much. Now it's still moving. But the thing about it is, don't get too worried about it. Say, oh my goodness, it's not perfect. I totally understand that because I'm type A as well, and I like everything to be, even Steven. But I want it to be even, but it may not be, super flat on the top, just depending on how much you whipped it. But you know what? You're going to put your fruit on top, and you'll be able to push it down a little bit more, and it's going to cover up, any little unevenness on the top. Now see, that's got an air gap on the side, so I am going to pick it up and drop it. And it filled it in. Oops, I keep holding it up too high, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll go ahead and finish these other ones. Now, if you don't like these little containers, you could put it in any container, any dish that you want. You could put it in a true parfait dish, you could put it in a tall cordial, you could put it in, whatever your heart's desire is. Move these so you guys can see. And like I said, this was a half a batch because I made it last night and it made so much. Now I could finish scraping that out, but I'm just going to set that aside for now. Okay, so just give the little drop. Okay, not bad. Oops. There's a little cheesecake batter on the side, but that's okay. And they're fairly, that scooper must not have been too full on that one. It's got a little bit less in it. You want to make sure if you're using a scooper that you make sure it's filled, and you can wipe it on the side, inside of the bowl to level it off. Because I think that's why that little one right there didn't have as much. So you can see what the top looks like. And they're fairly even. Okay. Now from here I've got my kiwi and I've got my strawberry. I can see there's questions, but I can't see them. Let's see if I can see them so I can answer you guys. Oh, they look delicious. Thank you. Oh, is it sideways? Oh, sideways as they do upright. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the video was sideways. I'll correct that before tomorrow. Okay, then I would just put the strawberries on top. And you don't have to be super methodical about the placement. And if you don't like strawberries, then, change it out to another fruit that you enjoy more. I've got some kiwi cut up here. So I'll put the kiwi, there's a new word. The kiwi on top. And I could add a little bit more strawberry on top as well. But I'll go ahead and finish these other ones off. And that's essentially the dessert. You can just load it up with whichever fruit you prefer. Or if these are fruits that you don't like, then you can always switch it to one that you enjoy more. But there's really not any method to the placement of the fruit. I'm sorry about the sideways rotation. I took the rotation lock off of my phone, so I thought the video would rotate as well, and apparently it didn't. So thank you for that comment, and I'll fix that before I do the next video. I'll replay the same video tonight, and I'll be on to answer questions. I'm going to do it at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But tomorrow I'll feature a new dessert. So there it is. And then I've got these fun little silver spoons to put there. And there's your dessert. So a half a batch, these are fairly big containers, made 4. And you have just a little bit, not even probably a whole scoop left in the bowl. So that is how much a half a batch made. But if you use a smaller container, then obviously it's going to stretch a lot further. Now you could put the dollop of whipped cream on the top of here if you want, or another fruit just to give it a little bit more color. And then it's always fun to put it on a beautiful little tray. So if I were going to serve these, here's what I would do. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I apologize for the sideways, but I'll have that corrected before the next one tomorrow. And I hope you're staying safe and staying inside. Thank you.